All right, here's chapter 18. Gold or manure? Dominic repeated the words aloud as he scratched his head. Actually, there's neither. Not in America that I know. Sometimes you can find money on the streets, but not very much. Some people can get rich if they work hard, but others work hard and never get rich. I'd be glad to have the chance to work for some gold, Salvador said. I want to work as a cowboy. You know a lot about cowboys? Dominic asked. Salvador knows all about them, Antonio assured him. Angelina Ferdo's uncle showed me some pictures of them, Salvador said proudly. They were wearing big white hats and they had shiny guns and silver spurs. He talks of nothing else since he's seen them, Francisco muttered. I will come and visit you, Francisco, in New York City, Salvador promised. And I will get a job and buy us each a gun and a horse that we can ride all over. You wait and see. Then we can sit under the stars at night and eat linguine together. Dominic closed his eyes and tried to imagine the cowboys he'd remembered from old Western movies. I don't think cowboys ate linguine under the stars, he said. No? Salvador looked surprised. Then what do they eat? Pizza? Well, I don't think cowboys ate pizza either, Dominic said. Well, then what? Antonio asked. Beans, I guess. Lots of beans, Dominic told them. I think it's going to be different from what you're expecting. I'm expecting to see those big hairy buffaloes, Salvador informed him. Dominic grinned and reached into his pant pocket. He pulled out a half dozen pebbles before pulling out his nickel. It was an old Indian head nickel that he had found on 9th Street back home in Brooklyn. He held it out to Salvador now. What coin is this? Salvador asked, turning the nickel head over in his hands. It's an American Indian head nickel, Dominic told him. And on the other side is a buffalo. Salvador sighed with envy. I can't understand the words, but I see it's a buffalo. I wish I had one, he said, tracing it lovingly with his finger. It's a pretty rare nickel, Dominic bragged. Not a lot of people have one. You're so lucky to have such a coin, Salvador whispered. I wish I had something good enough to trade you for it. Oh, I would never trade it for anything, Dominic told him. I just thought you'd like to see it. Dominic took a deep breath of tangy pine-scented air and couldn't help smiling over Salvador's envy. He took the nickel back and held it in his hand. Then his eyes widened as Dominic noticed the date on the face of the coin. Look! Look, he cried, the date on my nickel! I almost forgot about it. It's 1936. It's proof that what I said was true. I'm from the future. Salvador and the others peered down at the date on the coin, but they were not impressed. It's all in English, Francisco shrugged. How do we know what those numbers mean? It could be the date or maybe the number of the coin. Dominic put the nickel back into his pocket. He knew it was useless trying to convince them. What else do you know about cowboys? Salvador asked. Let me see, Dominic said. I learned Home on the Range a long time ago, and that's a real cowboy song. Oh, teach us, Salvador said to Antonio. And they both exclaimed, teach us. We want to learn the song that the real American cowboys sing. Even Francisco seemed interested, although he warned them to keep their voices low. Okay, Dominic laughed. He remembered how bored the boys in music class were when their teacher, Miss Faulkner, taught them the song. Dominic concentrated now as he worked hard to remember the first verse. Awed in silence, the Cantino brothers hung on to every word he sang. As soon as the still night air was filled with the perfect harmony of their voices singing together above a whisper. As the stars grew bright overhead, Francisco and Antonio were quick to fall asleep. Dominic and Salvador stayed awake, and they talked late into the night. You know, Dominic, Salvador whispered, I hope to be like you someday. Me? Dominic said. Sure. You're brave and kind, and you know real American cowboy songs? He ducked his head shyly. You're my hero. I like you too, Salvador, Dominic finally managed to whisper awkwardly. Looking at the stars overhead, the two boys talked about heroes and cowboys until they grew so tired that they couldn't talk anymore. It was a night Dominic knew he would always remember. He didn't want it to end. When Dominic finally closed his eyes, he was lulled by the voice of Salvador, who was softly singing next to him. We will read chapter 19 on Monday. You guys have a great weekend.